What is a cursor? Well, we've already looked at explicit cursors where we actually defined a thing that basically looked into data and formed an array-like structure of the data in a table. The cursor is actually, technically, internally, it's actually the pointer described inside the database software that points at a chunk of memory or a chunk of disk for the data that you're looking at. In Oracle, it's in memory because data gets loaded into memory buffers when it's read from the disk. If you've got an extremely large query that has an extremely large cursor, then the data could exist both on disk and in memory. So, when is a cursor created? Well, other than explicitly creating a cursor where you say go and create this cursor and read this data, cursors are created in various circumstances in Oracle, but the most crucial one is whenever you run a query, including even when you select star from dual, you are creating a cursor. The cursor is, if you like, the pointer bucket or area in memory that the results of a query expression are placed into so that something like SQL Plus or SQL Developer can read it and display it. It's a temporary memory holding area. Technically, whenever you run a query, a cursor is created, any kind of query. And actually, it is an implicit cursor unless you define it explicitly. What do cursors do? Cursors can, to a certain extent, allow scrolling through sets of rows, in other words, a set of rows that are defined by a query. Unlike explicit cursors that are created manually, implicit cursors are created by Oracle automatically for every query executed. As I said, there is an internal cursor, internal to Oracle. It's actually called SQL, and you can access the values of it to find out what's going on with a current query that is currently running. There is also a thing called a cursor for loop, where you actually define a for loop as a query, which we'll see by example shortly. So now let's go and look at some simple script examples. And here's a script. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you by connecting to the shows user, and then going to go into a block, a PLSQL block. I'm going to run a SQL statement. It says go and update. Well, yeah, it's a DML SQL statement. I'm going to update something in the table. Now, if we go and look at the ACT data, first of all, select star from ACT, order by 2, we will find that Diana Ross doesn't actually exist in our database yet. What we probably should do is put this in here. Diana Ross doesn't exist in database yet. What I'm trying to do is just change this to name to make it nice and simple to understand what's going on there. Don't have to think about it. It's saying try and update that record. Can't find it. What does it do? Well, it uses the internal SQL cursor called SQL. What is in this particular cursor? The context of this query, the current status or results. This query doesn't find anything, so what's going to happen here is going to be not found, and it's going to add Diana Ross into the database. And we need to take this out because these fields are not. The second time I run it, it's going to try to update it, and it is going to find it, and it's going to change it to that. So let's do that. This is an anonymous block, and I can run it from in here by doing this, and we highlight without highlighting, and we press the play button. And what I should have done is actually done set server output on this. I prefer to do it in SQL Plus because I'm more used to it. It hasn't actually committed. There's no commit command in there. So what I'm going to do first of all, to make sure I can show you that example working, is to roll that back. Roll back. I'm going to run this query again. Let's make sure Diana Ross is not there. D-I-A, she's not there. Let's run this query here. Anonymous block completed. Okay, I've got to do this again because I didn't run set server output on. So we'll run set server output on. You got to remember to run this. Run this again. Diana Ross is added. Now let's go and run the procedure again. This topic will be continued in the next movie.